And tonight we're going to do a little stargazing.
Yes, indeed, and without $100 bills. I had one today, and I bought a tank of gas. It took it all. You might could use a $100 bill, but you don't have to have $1 million grant and the most expensive equipment to probe the galaxies these days. This Carolina camera feature on a stargazer in Cabarrus County.
This is the North American Nebula, a small section of the Milky Way. This is a hydrogen gas cloud, which most of our universe is made out of. It's sort of conspicuous. It looks just like the North American continent.
Only 3 years ago, Wesley Furr was an amateur photographer experimenting with trick shots. But a friend introduced him to a man who was taking pictures of the stars through a 6-inch telescope. Wesley bought an accessory lens for his camera and took some pictures of the moon. The bug bit, and now he takes pictures like this.
This is a globular cluster in Hercules, constellation of Hercules, and it has a small companion galaxy right close to it. This is a pair of galaxies in Ursa Major, or more commonly known as the Big Dipper. They're called number 81 and 82.
Yes, over the last couple of years, by painstaking trial and error, Wesley Furr has become an accomplished amateur astronomer. Perhaps it stems from his days at Central Cabarrus High when he peered at the stars through the school's 4-inch telescope. But his interest developed to the point that he built his own observatory and, with the help of friend Gary Horton, mounted a 12.5-inch telescope inside. Absorbing dozens of books on the subject, he learned to capture on film pictures beyond even his imagination.
Well, first you need no moon. You need a dark sky, and then you have to set up the instrument with the equatorial mount on the object. You have setting circles. The sky is divided up just like the Earth is divided up in longitude and latitude. You have right ascension, declination. You set it up on the object. You put your camera, like I said, I've got an 8-inch and a 12-inch. I put it on the 8-inch, and I guide with the 12-inch. I put it on a star, line up on the star, and I use the crosshairs to stay on it while I'm photographing. Now, you have to think of it this way. The galaxies I photographed, light's made up of photons, and that photon left that galaxy millions and millions of years ago. And then, all of a sudden, on that night, it hit my film. It went all that distance and finally hit my film. So that's how you build it up. It takes a long exposure. It takes 30 minutes to an hour, even 2 hours.
You have to leave the lens open that long.
To absorb enough light from that object to finally actually make an object on the film itself.
Meanwhile, wife Donna has learned to spend an occasional evening alone.
I really never know. In the mornings I'll ask him, how late did you stay out? And he'll say, oh, maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's great outside. I tried staying out with him for a while, but I just about froze to death.
Wesley Furr, high school graduate, today writes articles on his findings that college graduates are reading. He's holding off, though, on dealing with the age-old question about possible life somewhere out there.
I'm not so sure that they're in our vicinity. I don't know that we would ever make contact. I'm sure not probably in my lifetime, but if technology advances enough that they can object into space that will go for light years, and that's a long way, maybe someday.
Underwood's universe. Hey, that was a good story.
That is a talented and brilliant young man, and he works at a sewage treatment plant in Cabarrus County. Can you imagine that? I think he ought to be doing some other things as well.
To tell us more about it. Mark?
Yes, Bob, it is a romantic night. As you can see, the moon is just beautiful, but in a few hours, it will not look like that. Now, right now, we can't tell you exactly what it will look like during the eclipse, but we do know about 2 a.m., about 3 hours from now, things will start getting darker and darker, and if you can stay up all night after your long holiday weekend, you should see quite a show. If there's such a thing as a front row seat for the eclipse, Wesley Furr has got it. His backyard observatory will give him a good look at the moon, but you'll be glad to know you don't need this kind of fancy equipment.
You won't need any special, maybe somebody would like to use field glasses, binoculars. That'd be interesting. And some people have telescopes, might want to try that.
And don't worry about looking at it. It will not hurt your eyes like an eclipse of the sun. The picture here gives you an idea of what you'll see if you stay up long enough to watch. At its peak, the eclipse will show a big dark spot across the moon like this, but most of it will have a copper-like glow. That's actually the Earth reflecting off the moon. A big question mark is how tons of volcano ash, now in the atmosphere, will affect the eclipse. The colors could be quite spectacular. Now, the moon will be in the Earth's shadow for about an hour and 45 minutes, then slowly come back to normal as daylight approaches. So as you can see, it'll be a long show. Now, this eclipse we just told you about will be at its peak at 3 a.m., right about 3 a.m., and then for an hour and 40 abouts thereafter. You'll start noticing some changes again about 2 a.m., so if you want to set your alarm, around 2 would be a good time to hop out of bed, get a cup of coffee, and get outside and start looking at it. And from just about anywhere, you should be able to see it with no problem. But if you're not inclined to stay up, our Diana Williams and one of our photographers will be up, and she'll show you the eclipse tomorrow night at 6.
Thank you, Mark. We've gotten lots of calls on that lunar eclipse. Wowed thousands of people all across the country. Already it's being billed as the most spectacular this century. Unfortunately, few people in our area got a chance to see the moon in all its splendor, and that includes our Diana Williams, who stayed up until the wee hours of the morning trying to see the eclipse. What happened?
Well, Janet, we started off with some real high hopes of seeing a total eclipse of the moon. Excuse me, it was to be the longest in more than 100 years, but about all I or anybody else in our area got to see was clouds.
This is what the moon looked like about midnight. The sky was clear then. I went to take a closer look through Wesley Furr's telescope. He's an amateur astronomer with his own private observatory in his backyard in Cabarrus County. Between midnight and about 1:45, he was able to take some pictures of the moon with a video camera hooked up to his telescope.
It's 1:44. Had another break in the clouds.
Minutes later, though, the clouds covered it completely.
Just so the clock turned to precisely 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock. What should we be seeing right now?
Right now we should be right in the center of the eclipse. So we should be seeing basically the same thing, the coppery tone moon.
Unfortunately, we never got to see that sight.
Of course, it disappoints me, but this is something you can't take for granted, that you're going to have good skies.
Close to 4 in the morning, we called it a night. But a lot of people in other parts of the country were able to see the eclipse. This time-lapse photography gives you an idea of what was going on behind the clouds.
Now, those pictures don't show the reddish color of the moon that was there. I actually got to catch a quick glance between clouds at about 5 o'clock this morning, just as the eclipse was ending, and the colors, well, they were quite spectacular.
Oh, well, nice try anyway.
We tried.
Thanks for giving it the old college try. Thank you.